alternative talk radio. Get ready, America, for Deadline Live with your host, Jack Blood. Deadline Live is the daily wrap-up for those too busy in the daily grind to discern and dissect the news. While the so-called mainstream media buries the truth, Jack Blood uncovers it, exposing the lies that our trusted government officials do not want us to know. And now, please welcome Jack Blood.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Deadline Live. I'm your narrator, radio, as always, Jack Blood, reporting, Oracle Broadcasting, and affiliates. Glad you can be with us today, May 4th, 2011. Vincent Bugliosi has been called the quintessential prosecutor. Alan Dershowitz says if he created a prosecutorial hall of fame, Vince would be the entranceway. In his career in the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, he successfully prosecuted 105 out of 106 felony jury trials, almost perfect, including 21 murder convictions without a single loss. His most famous trial, the Charlie Manson case, became the basis for his classic Helter Skelter, of which the movie was based on, the biggest selling true crime book in publishing history. His other books include And the Sea Will Tell, Outrage, Reclaiming History, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, where he makes the case that Lee Harvey Oswald was indeed the lone gunman. And, of course, just as the election was underway in 2008, the prosecution of George W. Bush for murder. He's on the air with us now. His new book is Divinity of Doubt, The God Question, a case for agnosticism. I think I might have mangled that, Vincent, but thank you for joining us on the air today.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show, Jack. On the Bush thing, that's still alive. But there's one thing I want you to know about me, and maybe your audience does not know, that if there's one word that's used to describe me, it's not lone nut. I think you used that term earlier. It's the word credibility.
No, I said you were the king of the lone nut theories.
So you feel these people...
I wasn't calling you a nut. I was saying...
No, but I mean, I'm the king of the lone nut. Well, that's funny. I just wanted you to know this about me, that my only master in or out of the courtroom in writing true crime books or prosecuting criminals is the evidence. I have no other master wherever it takes me. I mean, I put people on death row under the conspiracy theory, but if I don't find conspiracy, obviously I'm not going to say that. But my whole career
the fact that you even brought that up, it shows me you were listening to the first hour of our show today, which
because I had been told that I was supposed to call in at 1 o'clock, and when I called in, I heard you say that. The Kennedy thing, Tom Hanks and his people, I think you may mention, are doing a 8-hour miniseries on my book for the 50th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination in 2013. But my master is the evidence, searching for the evidence. When you find it, evaluating it, and then drawing powerful inferences from it. And I'm fairly good at that. Just last month, for instance, at the invitation of the Pentagon, I spoke, or I gave a 3-hour lecture to Marine prosecutors down at Camp Pendleton. So I only follow the evidence. I don't have any other master. Could I ask you, Jack, just to give you an idea, where are you on the religious spectrum? It'd be interesting for me to know.
Well, in my listeners, see, I don't bring religion into the conversation.
Oh, okay.
No, but I'll answer the question, Vincent, and we need to get rid of that echo, however that's happening.
Yeah.
I am a kind of a non-practicing Buddhist, and for me, stopping human suffering is the key. I am not a Christian, and I love the debate you are setting in your book, in the Divinity of Doubt.
Okay, great.
Putting God on trial is what your press release said. You're not really doing that, are you?
No. I don't know whether or not there's a God, but I'm taking the God question as a challenge because I like challenges, and I can say this, that I'm more excited about this book than any other book in my entire career, and I've had 7 New York Times bestsellers, 3 that got up to number 1. And the reason, Jack, is not only that the subject could not be more important, but we're talking here about a 2,000-year-old conversation in which I think it's generally considered that nothing new has been brought to the table in a great number of years. And believe it or not, in fact, I wouldn't have written the book if I didn't have anything new to say. I bring a lot of new things to the table here. And if you'll give me a moment off the top, I'll summarize just a couple of the very important things in the book. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and believe me, if someone were to ask me, is there free will, for instance, I say, why are you asking me? Why don't you ask my neighbor? I don't know any more than my neighbor would know. However, if Christianity says that there is free will and it's based on the Bible, at that point I can step in and say, wait a while, folks, the Bible doesn't say that. So let's take on free will first, and then I'll give you the support for everything after I give you the summary, if you're interested.
I am, as long as it doesn't take the whole hour. Go ahead.
Okay, no, it's not. No. You hear people say all the time, God gives all of us free will. If you challenge them, they say it's in the Bible. But it turns out that, contrary to popular belief, the Bible does not say there's free will. In fact, it says the precise opposite. There's no free will, and I can give you support for that if you want it later.
Do that and tell me which language and who did the translation and which of the Bibles you read. But go ahead.
Well, it's still I'm talking about the Hebrew Bible. I'm talking about the Protestant Bible and the Catholic Bible. I'll give you a couple citations, and I want to get into a couple other summaries. Let's take Isaiah 63:17. Said, Lord, why do you cause us some free will? Why do you cause us to stray from thy ways? Romans 11:32 goes so far as to say that God consigns all men to disobedience. The Talmudic scholars have been pulling out their hairs and struggling for centuries over 4:21 of Exodus, where God tells Moses, I will harden the heart of the Pharaoh, causing him to be stubborn so he will not release the people, talking about the Israelites, supposedly to justify his using the 10 plagues. Now, in my on the people of Egypt, in my book I give many more. But assuming for the sake of argument that the Bible says no free will, Martin Luther, the founder of Protestantism, said no free will. I don't have to tell you the enormous ramifications of this. How do you explain or justify God's punishment of evildoers if it turns out that what they did was preordained by God? It also
religious people always have the excuse, Vincent, that
yes.
If something good happens to them, it was from God. If something bad happens to them, that's just God's will, and they just don't understand God's will. Which, in a way, I can understand that. We often don't know what's best for us, and sometimes we got to be careful what we wish for or pray for because we might get it.
Yeah, I can get into that separately, but I want to go through these three top things in the book, and then there's many more, but I'll address myself later.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
It turns out, Jack, that the immortality of the soul, I traced it all the way back, was a pure invention of Plato in the 4th century BC, which Christianity was literally forced to embrace. Why? Because without it, there's no life after death, and if there's no life after death, there's no heaven and hell. And without heaven and hell, I would ask you this rhetorical question: how does Christianity even survive without heaven and hell? I mean, this is the main thing that they offer or threaten their followers with. Now, perhaps the most shocking thing in the book, and this is, no one's bringing anything to the table, and I can give you all types of evidence on that, but listen to this. I found evidence in the New Testament which, when read in conjunction with the Hebrew Bible, proves, not just beyond a reasonable doubt, which of course is a legal term, but beyond all doubt, that Jesus was not born of a virgin and therefore was not the Son of God. And if he's not the Son of God, then the Christian doctrine that God had his Son die on the cross for our sins goes out the window too, ravaging much of Christianity. Now, I know this is very hard to believe. The only problem, at least as far as the Bible is concerned, it happens to be the truth. And this is the reason why many people reading Divinity of Doubt, it just came out, are saying that no one who reads this book with an open mind is going to ever feel again the same way about God and religion. Now, one quick footnote, and then we...
You're unconverting people with your book.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm opening up their minds. We should not be afraid to question and never be afraid to listen. I want to tell you as a footnote.
Well, let me remind you that you said that later. Go ahead.
Okay, it's a footnote. When you're talking to lawyers, they're always talking about footnotes and endnotes. I'm very harsh on atheism in the book. In fact, my biggest attackers right now on the internet, I don't even have a computer. I'm still in the 19th century, the yellow pad and pencil, but people are telling me this.
I get one.
The atheists are really attacking me more than anyone else. I view atheism as being an intellectually barren, almost vapid philosophy whose current champions, I'm talking about people like Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Richard Dawkins, they simply cannot find a non sequitur that they do not like. They're hopelessly in love with non sequiturs. I don't know if there's a God or not, of course, but if there isn't, I do not believe that atheistic dogma leads one rationally to that conclusion. I'm an agnostic. You know what agnostic is. A theist believes, an atheist does not believe. An agnostic says, I do not know. Perhaps the better definition of agnostic is someone who believes that the existence vis-a-vis non-existence of God is unknowable. Of course, if it's unknowable, you can't know. I always tell people that I've got someone kind of bright on my side. At least most people think he's bright. His name is Einstein. Einstein was an agnostic. Darwin was also an agnostic. An interesting aspect of that is that
no swearing on my show. Don't.
I'm what?
It's a family show. No swearing.
Oh, I'm swearing now.
Okay.
I'm
Darwin.
sorry. But most evolutionists are atheists, and yet Darwin, the founder of evolution, happens to be an agnostic.